But since the title today was Social Media Mastery, I'm not sure who made that title. It was probably me at one point, which just sounds a little pretentious, but there's no such thing as mastery in any of this stuff. But I'll share a little bit from our corner of the world and some principles I think you'll be able to take and apply forward. You give me the green light when you're ready to jump right in.
Yeah, I think we are recording it for viewing later. So I feel like probably just you can go ahead and hop in whenever you're ready. So if we get anybody that joins later, we'll have a recording available. They can pop back and see the beginning that they missed. So
sure. Awesome. So so over a decade into social media, and one of the biggest questions in small business America, which is where we tend to work the most in, is what the heck is it, and more importantly, how can I use it to make money? And so I originally made this presentation mostly for mom and pop business owners. I say mom and pop, just family owned, operated companies, because that's at one point that was a platform we spoke to regularly. And so this is just kind of just an overview, some principles of mostly what not to do. But it's very well packaged within our method to approaching everything in marketing. So we call it the 3 levels of mastery for Facebook and Instagram. But what I'm going to share is really more of a manifesto about everything I think is working and not working in marketing today. So my name is Brandon Welch. I don't know if you guys have Googled me or any of that stuff, but I have a company, Frank and Maven, based here in Springfield. We serve probably little less than half of our customer base is regional or here in Springfield, and the rest of it spread out throughout the country. But mostly we serve family-owned, service-based companies. So this could be professional services, attorneys, doctor groups, medical groups. We do a lot in the home improvement contractor space, and then a kind of a third wing of our business is e-commerce. But I founded the company a little over 8 years ago, and the basic goal was there's a lot of people selling marketing things. There's a lot of people selling advertising, which is kind of the world I came from. I grew up in a family small business, and with immense frustration and immense amount of waste. But there are very few people teaching how to make it work, and more importantly, helping that entrepreneur make their marketing dollars work for them. So there's a lot of shiny object syndrome, and I sort of resist, frankly, sort of resist the idea of showing up to a presentation like this in general, because social media, along with tools, along with apps, along with all sorts of media, are really that really demands most of the conversation in marketing today. And what I'm going to take you through today is what I found to be much more useful of a conversation. So yes, it will revolve around social media. Will absolutely apply to some tools and things that you can use. But in marketing in general, we're not asking a big enough question. And so 2 seconds about me. I live in Ozark. This is my family of 4. Where we are a family of 6. We had 4 kids in 5 years. That's Jude, Joby, Anna, and Archer, and they are just as mischievous and wild as they look. You can see I married way above my pay grade, and she has everything to do with their looks. So, but our company, I told you a little bit about that. Frank, and what you're hopefully going to get today is bold, honest, and true. That's our number 1 most important value proposition. We will not say or do anything we don't believe in, and we will call your baby ugly if we have to, if it means you getting to a better place. So we're a very bold company. We are the first to opt ourselves out of bad marketing plans for our clients, and we sort of demand to know why we're doing every single thing in our agency. We have a team of 15 marketers that at the end of the day, we do everything from TV, radio, billboards. We do a ton in paid social and paid digital, Google and Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing, email marketing, a lot of copywriting. A huge part of our business is web development and design. But ultimately, none of that matters. That's where people come to our front door and they say, we need a blank, we need a website, we need social media, we need all these things. And we demand that they have a business conversation first. what are you actually trying to make happen? Because the source of waste in marketing today, and social media for that matter, is that you have a lot of people doing busy work and not enough people doing business work. And here's just a splash of a few clients you might recognize from around here that we've taken through this. But what all of this comes down to, and our approach and our process every single time, is that the media comes last, and social media is included in that. We first start with strategy, which is what are we trying to make happen? We get very clear about that. I'm going to take you through our process for strategy. Then we say, within strategy, we know every business outcome is driven by a person's decision. So it's about a person you need to influence and change their belief or behavior. Once you do that, they will buy more of your product or subscribe to more, whatever you're selling, or participate in your service or donate to your nonprofit. So you have to start with, what are you trying to make happen? Who can make that happen for you? And what beliefs and behaviors do you have to change? The message is simply what you say to change those behaviors. And that's based on who you're talking to, their needs, pains, hopes, and fears, what and how your product can solve those needs, pains, hopes, or fears, and then a reasonable next step for action. And then media is just simply where you distribute that message. And what happens, I'm gonna get off my soapbox in a second, but what happens so often, we have multi-million-dollar ad budgets even that we work with, and people start with, what advertising platform do we use? And it's not that it's a bad question, it's an important question, but it's just not the first question we should be asking. We have to get really serious about what I'm going to call the human equation here in a second. So before we ever talk about social, we need to remember this. And when we remember this strategy, message, media process, the not so big secret, that, as I like to call it, you didn't show up here today for a social media presentation. This applies to everything. If you apply these principles, I promise you'll write better press releases. You'll write better emails. You will build better videos. You will write better radio and TV ads. And just by applying a few of these things to clients we've been privileged to work with, we've made multi-million-dollar differences in sales. We regularly have clients that go from the $2 to $3 million mark to well over the $10 million mark. And it's not because we are I have a group of exceptionally talented people here. I have some really, really awesome artists and creative people, but it has more to do with, we get the right order of approach. So if you take nothing away from today, I hope it's that. So I want to jump right into strategy. And I usually ask the question, anytime you have a room of people that have showed up and said, I want to know more about social media, I say, why? Why is this your weapon of choice? And I ask why, because so many people have, including me, by the way, I didn't learn this. I didn't, just wake up knowing this someday. I went through better part of a decade of failing at marketing before I learned this. And I would ask a similar question to any media. Why social media? Why TV? Why email marketing? And I just want to make sure that anybody in the room is not looking for this to be some sort of magic bullet for the reasons I talked about a second ago. So I like to set some reasonable expectations about what social media can do. This is mostly for business owners. It can support your inner circle. It'd be like a customer service tool, keeping current and past customers engaged. You can trigger leads and online sales and some direct calls to action with it. And of course, we all like getting event response and attendance to things like this. What a lot of people expect social media can do, I think it is grossly ill-equipped to do, which is replacement for mass media. I'm not saying every business has to have mass media, but a lot of people think, wow, Facebook is where everybody is, so that's where I can reach everybody. And it's not that you can't reach people there, it's just not as efficient usually. We, even in a fragmented age of broadcast, we regularly get reached 3 to 4 times the amount of people in a broadcast format than we can use the same money and reach people on social media. So I say keyword there is efficient. It's an efficient replacement for broadcast media. It's not a replacement for email marketing or your website or a lot of other destination things. And it's not really an efficient creator of household awareness if you're talking about a local business. And then the last thing is that I think everybody on this call probably knows this, but few years ago, even likes was everything. Likes was, how many likes do I have on my Facebook page, or how many likes can I get on this post? And while it is a measure of strength of probably your brand and your following, and it does make a few other things more efficient for reach, the reality is, for business and organizational pages, if you have 10,000 people following you, you will reach less than 300 of them with a post. It's 3% or less is what the algorithms are doing right now. So likes is not everything. We're going to talk about what is everything. And before you ever start, this is that whole strategy thing. What are you trying to make happen? You need to make sure it's not any of those unreasonable things. What social can do, I believe, your goal can be to just cause a feel good in interaction, building a bond. It's almost like customer courtship. Your social media, like your email and like your events and like interactions with your either your salespeople or your public relations staff, can make people feel good. It can cause a somewhat relational event with your company. So sometimes your goal can be just to make people feel good. Sometimes it can be to establish credibility. Sometimes it can be to take the next step in the sales process. If we're talking about paid ads, we can take people to a lead form or some sort of a call to action. That would be similar to responding to an event. You can try to make something that triggers the viral, as they call it, algorithm of Facebook, and get a bunch of shares, something that's share worthy, something that is asking for a specific, share component. And then, or you can create desire for an experience. There's other things that could be on this list, but the point is, before you ever set out to make a post, or before you ever set out to build an ad, or before you ever set out to do, honestly, anything in marketing, a very often missing step is that we go straight to the tool, and we go straight to the even the creative part of it, and we don't ask, what are we actually expecting to happen for this? And what we do instead is we kind of mash a lot of these things together, and what we end up doing is making noise. So let me back out of here for a second. So this is like a foundational belief of my company and what we've built hundreds of profitable marketing plans off of. Successful social is not about your company, it's about your customer. Or successful websites are not about your company, they're about your customer. Successful ads are not about your company, they're about your customer. Successful emails are not about your company, they're about your customer. And we all know this to be true in our own personal lives. We don't pay attention to things that don't matter to us, but somehow when we go to do the task of advertising, we believe it's our job to inform people. And the truth is, most people walk around not needing to be informed about what you have. They need to be reminded of their own needs, pains, hopes, and fears, and your product is just simply a byproduct of that. I don't know if any of you have ever read Donald Miller's Building a Story Brand, but he lays it out in a storyboard framework. And what he tells us is that most companies try to make themselves the hero versus making their customer the hero, when in reality, your company or your organization just needs to be the guide. You are the helper. You are the bridgeway of the hero getting to more of what they want. And so we kind of do things out of order. And I know I'm beating that drum really loudly right now, but it's 2020 and we've not gotten any better at it, even in national advertising. Second thing I want us to remember, a successful social is not a technology equation. It's a human equation. So while there are great tools, there are great posting tools, there are great analytics tools, there are great targeting tools, none of that matters if you didn't get the human equation right. In its very essence, algorithms for Google, Instagram, LinkedIn, any social platform are wired to reward you for creating things that are truly interesting and of value to that human. And they use the signals like likes and shares and comments to determine that, which is why, but what they're measuring is the human equation. So that's why you need to focus on the human equation. So ask yourself, are you prepared to connect with humans? If nobody's ever read this book, it's not like a bestseller or anything, but it's probably one of the top 5 books I've ever read in marketing. It'll take you like 30 minutes to read. It might take you 20 minutes to read. It took me 30 minutes to read. I'm a slow reader. But it's called the One Sentence Persuasion Course. And the 27 words, that the sentence that the title refers to, is that people will do anything for those who encourage their dreams, justify their failures, allay their fears, confirm their suspicions, or help them throw rocks at their enemies. And that's written by Blair Warren, and he claims that if we just pick to do one of these things with it, no matter what we're doing in communication, and make sure that it's reinforcing one of these 5 things, that we will win. And I have certainly found that to be true. If anybody's familiar with Maslow's hierarchy, this is like some basic psychology 101 stuff, but Maslow in his lifetime observed over 100,000 human beings, and he determined that we have 5 levels of needs, and we're all probably familiar with this, but for those that aren't, our first needs at the bottom of this pyramid here are basically physical needs. We need to eat and sleep. The second is, once we can eat and sleep, we need to know we're not going to get eaten by lions and tigers. We need to be safe, so we need to have a house or somewhere that we feel secure. Third need is, after we have those things, we start looking for more love and belonging. And then once we have love and belonging from sort of our inner circle, we start looking for respect and achievement and respect of other people. And then once we sort of have that fulfilled on a sustained basis, what Maslow would call sustained fulfillment, we sort of reach what he called the pinnacle of self-actualization, which is when we go out and do fun things and philanthropic things, and we help other people solve problems, and we sort of become at one with the universe. And so that's just a basic framework for this. But the reason I bring it up in marketing is because more than 80% of people in the first world walk around with their physiological and safety needs met. That's just not a thing for most people. But Maslow observed that of that 80%, less than 10% reach sustained self-actualization, meaning that most of us walk around needing more love and belonging and self-esteem. Love and belonging and self-esteem. So if we know that humans are at a basic state of needing more love and belonging and self-esteem, and we wish to connect with humans and cause them to pay attention to whatever it is we have to say, that's my job. That's what all of our jobs ultimately are in marketing. Then wouldn't it make sense for us to engage those basic emotions of getting more self-esteem, more respect from people, and more love and belonging? And so that's a big thought. And you might be asking, how do I make my product or service about love and belonging? And there is a way. And here are the questions that, this is what we train every person on our team to do, really, no matter what marketing activity they have. Like this is like the Bible in our little ad agency universe. We get very clear about who we are talking to. So most of you are probably familiar with the concept of an avatar, and like making this fictitious person about, that's an ideal customer. We do that. We find the picture of the person that is most likely. We give him or her a name. Then we take a walk around in their world for a minute, and we say, well, if it's a 35-year-old mom that we need to talk to, what are her needs, pains, hopes, and dreams? Or hopes and fears is what this should say. And you think a mom of 2 on an average day probably needs more sleep. She's probably needing somebody to tell her she's a good mom because she's all stressed out by all the things she has to do. And I'm just making this up on the fly, but just to give you a quick example of the exercise. What are her pain factors? Probably hasn't had time to herself in a while. She might not get to exercise like she used to. She might not have the friends or connections she used to. Again, just making this up. Hopes and dreams, happy family, kids that grow up and are happy and successful. She wants a great marriage, or she wants good connections with her family. Fears is that revolve around that she's not a good enough mom somehow. I'm stereotyping, but that's what this exercise requires us to do. You might ask questions about where do they live? Is it rural or city? Is it Midwest or coast? Is it blue collar, white collar? What do they value? What brands do they admire? What keeps them up at night? What do they find funny? What TV shows might they be watching? What do they do in their free time? What's their idea of adventure? And I'm going to stop here and just say, if you are creating content of any kind, even if your content is supposed to go to mass amounts of people, if you have not stopped to do this exercise, and truly like empathetically modeled the person that you need to influence, I think you're ill-equipped to do the best job in any marketing equation. It's not that you can't get some success. It's not that you're a bad writer. It's not that you're a bad communicator. It's that to truly connect, when you make noise to everybody, you're really talking to nobody. But when you speak to somebody, you're talking to everybody. So pick a person, pick an ideal person. There may be 10 other types of people in your crowd, but when you go through these steps and you get even on a piece of paper or a scratch empty document, and you have such a clear picture about who you're talking to in the crowd, everybody else around is listening. They call that the eavesdropper effect. If you're sitting at a coffee shop and the table next to you, there's somebody that answers their phone, you know very well nobody's intending to talk to you at all. They're intending to talk to the other person on that phone, but you can't help but listen in because you want to know what the conversation is about. That exact same thing happens in the masses. Pick one person to have that phone conversation with, and everybody else will listen, because what it forces you to do is use language that's actually real. Just so I'm not rambling, does anybody have any thoughts, ideas, examples, or rocks they would like to throw at that question? Because that's like the biggest thing I could bring you guys today, is modeling your audience. We're going to get into some specific examples of that in a second. Just raise your hand and Jeremy can hand you the mic, I guess. Or we can save it to the end. We'll do that. Just want to make sure.
Anybody.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So ask these questions. And by the way, I'm happy to send this presentation out. This would literally be a checklist we would use in our office, working with any amount of ad budgets, or frankly, any amount of media. So who are we talking to? What are their needs, pains, hopes, and fears? What keeps them up at night? What brands do they admire? What TV shows do they watch? And this just kind of gives you a personal connection with that person, like they're your friend. So I would do this, if you've never done this sort of thing, I would do this almost organizationally wide. We take companies through like a half-day marketing or a strategy workshop, where this is what we get really obsessive about. And we pull out 3 to 5 sample avatars of their customers, and we build them with them. And there's a big nonprofit in Springfield. We did this for 3 or 4 months ago, and they have told us, and we've known this with other clients, but they've told us it has made impacts in every corner of their 1,000+ employee organization. So if you just get really serious about this customer, about what's going on in their life, it's sort of an intuitive thing, but when you look in this person, you go, wow, I know a person like this now. I know a person, I can kind of compare this to somebody in my own life. Then, just like you would have a different conversation with your mom or your grandma or your spouse or your 12-year-old, we do this. Our brains are communication, empathetic modeling machines. We do it 1,000 times a day. You talk to different people based on what you know about them. And so all you're doing is making this person somebody that you know very well before you ever try to talk with them. Give me a high five or a wave if that makes sense, because it's so huge. And that's, if I've had any success in marketing, it's been because we take the time to do that. So here's kind of a strategy checklist. The last thing you would do before you're prepared to make the message. Do I know what outcome I want? Do I have a clear picture of who I'm talking to? Do I have in mind what they value? Am I equipped to add value with what I have? Can I find something in my product set or my organization or a lot of you guys are just in plain old public service that is like a huge value to everybody, but how do I highlight the thing about that is valuable to everybody? So you want to make sure we're not making noise. And at all costs, if you can entertain them in some way, let's do that. And that's what we're going to get into in the message. So I want to talk to you about three things. I want to talk to you about building brand personality, curating some content, which is kind of an extension of brand personality, and then audience participation, which we all love to see because it makes us feel good, right? It makes us feel like we're making a connection. So what makes a strong personality? There's a lot more that can go into this, but I'm going to give you three that we use often. One is vernacular and voice. Two is imperfections. Three is unpredictability. Imperfections and unpredictability explain why we are attracted to just about every character in history. I'm not going to get into this today. It's a pretty big topic, but the way our team learned this, we actually had a Hollywood screenwriter teach us this. His name is Joe Freeman. Hollywood or pop culture, whenever we create characters, by design, the best characters are built in with imperfections and some unpredictabilities about them. When a character is perfect and we can predict what's happening next, we no longer care about them. That's the definition of a boring sitcom or a boring novel or a movie that gets bad reviews. When a character has a really strong good thing about them and then this counteracting thing that is not so good about them or surprising about them, or maybe there's a really strong good thing, a really surprising other good thing, and then a vulnerability or an imperfection, that is when we become magnetic to them. And think about your favorite characters. Think about Friends. Think about some of the characters in Seinfeld, Cosmo Kramer. There's some imperfections there. And there's always this little thing that makes them human. And so that's an unnatural thing for professionals to embrace because we think, oh, only present the best and only offer this polished thing. And polish will absolutely get you ignored. So we're going to go through maybe some ways to do that with your brand. And for each brand, it would be different. So ask yourself, if your brand was a person, what language would it use? Would it be serious, funny, kind? What kind of TV character would it look like? Would you be Michael Scott? Would you be Toby Henderson? Would you be who was the House of Cards guy? Frank Underwood? I'm just thinking of things that come to mind, but where would your brand hang out? What would it look like? And you might even make an avatar for your own brand. What kind of conversations would it have? What kind of dialogue would it use? Would it speak with a slang? And that's actually message tactic number one. I'm going to rush through these because they can get thick. But when you're creating personality, I think there's 14 of these I'm going to go through, maybe 12. But there's some tactics you can use to just kind of hack this. Now, I would definitely encourage you to make this into a guiding thing, so it's not at random. For our clients, we actually take them through a messaging process that says, here are words that are synonymous with your vernacular. Here are words you never use. Here's how you talk about this service. Here's your one-liner for this service. Here's your brand phrases that kind of get used over and over in ads. If anybody's familiar with the outdoor home campaign, whether you like it or hate it, and we're happy to get some hate mail on it, the reason it is sticky, the reason it gets remembered, and frankly, the reason it's driven really great results for them is because we use the same slang, the same vernacular. We created two very consistent characters within their radio ads. And every time we write a radio ad, this character sees their brand and talks about their brand this way, and this one talks about it this way, and they both have these things that they synonymously say, or simultaneously say, I should say. So let's talk about slang. I'm going to use this. This is a fictitious example, but I pulled it at one point when I made this presentation. I pulled it from a real restaurant. I called it Henry's, but it was another restaurant at some point. And so I'm just going to demonstrate what it would look like. And maybe you guys can take some of your own social posts or ads and apply this to it. So this is what a stiff, regular, informative type post would sound like. Attention Henry's patrons, come dine with us this Friday and Saturday, where we'll feature prime rib on the dinner from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. on the dinner menu while supplies last. And so you think, okay, we've all seen that type of a post. That's information. Cool. They've got prime rib this Friday. So let's look at some of the dead phrases. Look at some of the things that would signal us to feel like this is not a real person talking to us. This is actually ad speak. This is an ad. This is not fun to read. Come dine with us. No person would ever say that. They would, well, I'll show you what they might say instead. Where we'll feature. Nobody would ever really say that. While supplies last, only ads say that. So here's an example of slang. Slap your grandma good. Prime rib this Friday and Saturday for dinner. Don't be late. There won't be any left. See how we use some slang? Here's an example of a national company. I'm going to pull this away. My Zoom chat box is blocking me. So they could have said, such and such person having a nice day out on the Colorado River fishing. And that would be boring and informative. But instead they use the slang and the street language of this audience, Patagonia, which is an outdoor brand, putting a sneak on a trout along the Sierra High Route. They don't need to tell you what state it's in or what they're doing. You can obviously see that with the picture. So they're leaving stuff out, and they're using customer language. Toe side, arms out, eyes clear. I don't know what that means, but people that snowboard probably do, and that's who they were trying to talk to. See what I mean there? Give me a thumbs up. Use slang. 50-cent small Frosty is like highway robbery, but we'll let you get away with it. That's an example of Wendy's using slang to obviously a very large group of people. They could have very boringly said, while supplies last, you can get a 50-cent small Frosty with purchase of a whatever, and it would have been boring, right? Wouldn't have gotten engaging. And I don't know if you can see the engagement with that post, but obviously somebody knows what they're doing in the language in the slang department there. So use slang, trying to be so stiff and polished. I would argue even if you're a government organization or a big prestigious brand, you don't have to break language rules. You don't have to be too rigid, but ask yourself, are these words people would use in real life? And when you're not doing that, you're likely to get ignored. So I'm going to speed this up. A couple of these examples. Yeah, yes, sir.
Quick question came up in the chat, and I don't know if you want to address this now or just at some point while you're going along, but
absolutely.
How has the pandemic that's looming over everything, has that caused you to have to pivot with any of your clients in terms of the way they message or use of slang or any of these tactics you're talking about? Man,
this is going to ruffle some feathers. I think it's even more important. And I'll give you a clear example. So within days of COVID becoming a thing, every national brand, every local brand, every person who had an ad used the phrase, in these difficult times, in unknown times, in challenging times, in the new normal. And after about 8 minutes of that crap, America was like, gag me. I don't want to hear that statement again. Stop it. Nobody likes to hear that statement. And you're telling me what I already know, which is the definition of not worth my time. That's the feather ruffling statement. And what we did with our clients is we're like, dude, people are locked up in their house. Do you think they need to be bored to death with official sounding language? It was even more important to be the brand that gave them an emotional jolt. This sucks. Like, what we're in is awful. And people are feeling that it's awful. I mean, depression is rising. It's the biggest challenge in most people's, professional and maybe even personal lives. So be the person that makes them smile a bit. And even if you have to have a somber tone, and I'm not saying you ignore the sensitivity of what's going on, but even if you have to have a somber tone, do it in your brand language. I'm using this example because it's local, and I think it's probably got the biggest chance of people having heard it. The Outdoor Home folks, they made the decision to do delivery. They sell high-end outdoor furniture and grills and everything about cooking and living outside. And so we sat them down and we wrote a script for them. That was the two people who've been in the commercials their whole campaign, which actually happened to be the owners, but the owners just play different characters. And we did a dialogue of them sitting around a fire, and they just have a dialogue about how this is actually a really good thing. And that RD in the campaign says, I think there's a silver lining in all this. And he does not say COVID. He does not say the new normal. He does not say virus. He does not say any of those words. He assumes that the audience knows it, which is actually message tactic I'm about to show you. Don't tell people what they already know. Simply talk about it in the language and the personality of your brand that hopefully you've already created. And so I get that there's a time and a place to be sensitive. But what RD said in the campaign, or in that commercial, they're sitting around a fire. You can hear the fire crackling. He said, there's a silver lining in all this. And his wife says, really? What is it? And he says, we're learning how to be together again. And that's basically the whole ad. And then he kind of turns to the camera or the microphone and says, guys, don't forget, this is a time to be with your family. Enjoy the outdoors, try a new recipe, play some board games. And if you need us, we're making home deliveries. And that's the entire 60-second ad. So if you want to throw a specific example out, Katie, I need to scroll up to see what your day in the life is like. Content relevant isn't just noise. There's a lot of information going on social. Okay, so this applies directly to your original challenge. Do not let yourself be another one of those in trying times or informative posts. Dude, people want information to watch the news. And even if you are the news or are some sort of an authority, they're begging for real human conversation, human interaction. That's the thing that's missing in every single person's life right now. Even if they're a frontline worker, even if their job hasn't changed all that much. The fact is the world is less social right now. And so don't be informative. Informative is not social. We do not go to social gatherings to learn information. We go to social gatherings to have conversations. So package your information or whatever you need to get them to do inside of a conversation with slang, with this next thing I want to talk to you guys about, which is ditching the details. You saw me do that in the Henry's Down Home example. We ditched the details. Nobody cared about 5 to 9 p.m. Nobody cared about come dine with us. It's a freaking restaurant. We know that they want them to dine with us. Why else would they be in existence, right? So leave out the parts that people skip and that people already know. That's a huge, huge, huge takeaway. I think the next tactic is, it's tactic 2. Yeah, here's another lawn company example that we had kind of used. So this would be an example of telling people things they already know. This happened in like October or something. It's officially fall time. Duh, I know that. It's October and I live in Missouri. We're proud to offer a special to all Springfield residents. You don't have to tell me I'm a Springfield resident. Why would I be seeing your post otherwise? Right now, of course it's right now because you're posting right now. So that's an example of details people would skip. So here's what we did instead. Go down to this is actually combining two tactics, the second person challenge. So leave out all this crap that people skip and go down here to message tactic 3, give them a challenge, which is another thing you can do. Dude, it's fall. You should be inside watching football. Let us put your yard to bed for you. First 5 people to call and get a lawn and leaf cleanup for $75, and then put a lawn picture on that. We didn't waste their time. So, and the second challenge is we use this. This would have come from a need, pain, hope, or fear of like a middle-aged dude who would be in the fall time doing his lawn. He didn't want to be doing his lawn. Football started. So like, tell him his time's worth more than that. Tell him, go watch football. We'll take care of your lawn for you. So all these things start to connect. But in direct response to Katie's question and like just everything going on right now with COVID, holy smokes. Don't be one of those informative companies. Everybody's been informed. We know it's bad. It's real bad. So be the opposite of that. Be the glass half full voice. This one's pretty simple. Emojis immediately make talking more fun. We all know that. So use emojis. Showing behind the curtain. Your creation process, your hiring process, your unpolished details. Let people in on a poll, like ask them, should we do this or that? Here's this video probably won't play. This was at our old office. Let's see if it'll play. Might play. We redid our chalk wall, our back wall. So we just did a time-lapse video. That's not like, that was interesting because Wendy's awesome. She's a great artist. It was just interesting to anybody. It didn't have a whole lot to do with our product, but the people that follow us and know us and then came in the next months and saw that wall were like, oh, I saw that thing. So do something behind the scenes. If you're not a visually creative person, I'm not particularly visually creative, find someone who is. Find someone who's good at an interesting camera angle. If you're in an 8-hour meeting, go take a picture of the empty cookie tray and do some weird, behind the scenes. We're planning the best to come and it requires lots of cookies, or planning for COVID is a tough cookie or something like that. Just find some little angle, some corner behind the scenes that lets people in. It's a tactic you can use to be interesting. Purple Mattress did a pretty slick video behind the scenes. Auntie Anne's. You see that picture and you want to go to the mall and get a pretzel, don't you? So cut off the corners, or show the rough edges, I should say, of whatever it is that you do. Even if you don't think it's interesting, there's something that somebody's curious about. Content curation. I would guess most people on this post are pretty dang good at content curation. All that means is just finding things that are relevant. Even if you're not the one that wrote the article, if you can bring good, valuable, relevant content to your audience, you can kind of get credit for sharing it. So a quick slang or a non-detailed comment on an article that you share, I think is valuable content. It's a good way to get engagement. And one tactic that we use for this is that we can we subscribe to Flipboard. You can put any amount of topics in there and it will literally create a new magazine for you of those topics every time you open it up. Similarly, Google News Alerts is a good way to do that. You can get the latest news articles emailed to you based on a topic. And so use that as sort of like once or twice a week, and don't just post everything. You don't want to be that person. But when you find something that's truly like a great article, use it to share. You guys know this, but follow hashtags. So get obsessed about the communities that you serve, and follow hashtags of people that are already creating stuff around that. You will A, get ideas, B, you'll have a an opportunity to contribute to those conversations. And just by following them, you can also, and posting that hashtag with those hashtags that of the people that you're serving, you can get extra follows from that. That's a pretty basic Instagram strategy. If you want more on that, just shoot me a question. Follow big brands. They have more resources than you. They probably have more creative bandwidth than you, and just follow them and get ideas. You can share new products, start new conversations. You can borrow from their tactics. If it worked in a big city, it's going to work in Springfield, Missouri. This kind of goes back to using slang a little bit and building a brand personality. Use a very familiar cultural icon or cultural thing, people that or things that already have immense amount of meanings attached to them. Everybody's seen this movie, and Hollywood spends hundreds of millions of dollars making these people funny, these characters funny. So borrow them. It's not illegal. You're posting a GIF. What if you could have Betty White as your informal spokesperson for whatever you're trying to talk about? There's a time and a place where your brand is just not as interesting as some of these things. So use Giphy, make a brief statement, and pair it with a GIF. Could be funny, could be emotional, could be sensitive, could be inquisitive. But ask yourself, could I use a GIF to make this, to resonate with this point? Audience participation. So this is a really good one. Random facts and random quizzes have been some of the most successful posts that I've ever done. This is a e-commerce company we work with, and they sell like insane amounts of crystals and beads and stuff. So every week we post a thing and we say, guess how many beads or crystals are on this? And the right answer gets like a giveaway. You guys might have seen, we did this with Absolute Roofing for a year or so. We did a guess where in the world. We made a little cardboard cutout of their owner and put him in random like Springfield iconic places. And we took the camera at just the right angle where you'd had to have been there or been from Springfield to kind of understand it. Like we might have put him like in the Vandervoort bathroom, for example, and said, guess where Mike is. And it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of responses you usually get on that stuff. So put out random guesses. And man, even if you're if you're like, I don't know who here is from like City of Springfield or City Utilities, where like everyday business for you is official government stuff. What if once a week you were just taking something you do and making fun with it? A million ideas. If you need help brainstorming some of that, let me know. But just take something and don't inform, entertain. Make your job to entertain for as often as you can. This or that tactics really work. So throw up a poll on Instagram. It's in the stories, or what do you guys think, sort of thing. I'm almost on my last tactic. Open polls, fill in the blank stuff. You're just demanding engagement. When you hand the mic to your audience, you'll be surprised how often they want to speak up. What do moms really want for Mother's Day? That's a question that Old Navy asked. So any form of asking questions is going to serve you well. Live video. I made this presentation when live video was like maybe not a no-duh thing. But compare live video with a lot of these other tactics, like a giveaway. When we did the social for the fair, like 836 people are chiming in, and that programs Facebook to think that you guys are really interesting. When they see thousands of people at once responding to a post, your whole brand, your whole page, your whole handle gets some good juju for going forward. So what I'm going to do now, by all means, I will send this deck out and you guys can refer to those tactics. But I want to, on the media side, this is probably more of a question and answer type section anyway. Gets into some technical stuff. We were going to talk about paid versus social, or paid versus organic, and then some tools you can use to schedule. do scheduling, but I want to kind of turn this over to you guys because this is where what I had could be potentially irrelevant. So we'll use the last 5 or 10 minutes here for any questions, and talk some shop.
Well, maybe while we're waiting for any specific questions that might come in the last few minutes, I don't know if you want to go back and look through any of those that were submitted at the beginning and see if there's anything that that primes your interest there.
Okay, so Melinda, free and inexpensive tools for social scheduling. The one we use the most, and full disclosure, we kind of got out of the social posting business a few years ago. So we rather than us do it for our clients, we teach them and coach them how to do it. But Sprout Social is the tool we found to be the most beneficial, mostly because of the calendar view. You know what? I'm going to take that back. Sprout Social is the best analytics tool we found. Gain app it's called gainapp.com, I believe. It has a very, very cool calendar view. And the reason we liked it the best was because of that. Also because it's a very good collaborative tool. It's a pretty popular tool, so you may have seen it, but basically you can write, 20 drafts out for a month. And then for us, we could send an invite to our clients to look at them, preview them, make any requested changes, and then fix them and then post them. So Gain app is what we found to be the most helpful. We have not probably shopped that in a year though, so there may be something better now. So let's see, Mallory, negative comments from live streaming or anything pertinent to COVID when we post. Okay, I would go back to, you obviously have a job of being very official and very safe and very authoritative. So we can't go too much in the clowning area. If you could help me out, what types of negative posts are you getting? If it's posting related to the quality of streaming or, in direct conflict with the city leader or whatever they're saying or something like that. I would just make sure that that voice and that person is starting the live stream with some sort of leveling, emotionally intelligent statement saying, you know what, this is really hard. We are faced with choices every day where there is no clear, great answer. And so I just want to know that if you don't agree with what we're saying or what we've decided, we welcome your comments. We welcome your scrutiny. That's what public service is all about. And we hear you, and we welcome a meeting or a dialogue or an email, some sort of call to action for them to carry that conversation forward. And so actually yesterday, if you guys didn't see, Jeff Bezos, which he had to testify in front of Congress, wrote one of the most brilliant opening letters, and everybody in public relations should read this because it was brilliantly emotionally intelligent. He appealed to the emotion of every single political type in the letter he read before they grilled him, and it helped his case a ton. So, and basically all he did is he leveled with them. And humility goes so far when you're trying to eliminate ill will. If they can see you as real and see you as human, just like your job is not to be an informative, stiff voice in social, we know that doesn't work. Don't be an informative, stiff city leader. Have some God bless you, because I don't know what you go through in a day. I probably don't want to know, but take a deep breath, meditate, find some humanness and a way to project that humanness with either a statement or a, gosh, guys, we're trying, and I know this sucks, but I'm here for you. So I think if you present that, any reasonable person is going to turn down their keyboard warrior energy, I guess. You're still going to have idiots. You're still going to have trolls and people that just want to be mad, and you just kind of smile and nod at them and say, well, we're here for you anyway. So hope that helps. Maybe you to see if you add it in there. Okay, yeah, cool. Let's see, we had tools educations give students a realistic feel for using analytics for a brand campaign. Okay. You want the truth? In my world, there is a lot of focus in marketing conversation about analytics. And I'll answer the question as asked. If I wanted to, when I do train my people on analytics and how to read Facebook reports and Google Analytics, the two sources I use are Digital Marketer. Ryan Dice has an insane amount of awesome content. And then we use Udemy. And just literally depending on what I need somebody to get sharp on, I might pay $50 or $100 for them to take a course on it. That said, if I'm teaching kids social media today, and just what I know from hiring people, like a tiny fraction might be their ability to read an analytics report. But the truth is, I would rather them be way better at the creation and modeling and human part of social media. Analytics can only tell you what's happened. They cannot tell you what's going to happen in the future. What a better bet for the future is getting serious about people's emotional needs and pains and fears and knowing how to speak to those. So answering the question is asked, I would send them through Digital Marketer courses. I don't have any specific ones. By the way, Google, I think they call it Google University, that Google Analytics own analytics training is not bad. It's like everybody should start with that. When I talk to college kids, I say, if you don't have your Google Analytics certification, you're missing an opportunity because it looks cool. It takes like a few hours to go through, and it's a skill you can use everywhere. But analytics is really only about saying what signals show us if people are paying attention. And there's not very many. You don't have to get very deep to understand, is this working or not? Honestly, the algorithm of likes and shares would pretty much tell you, or comments. So hope that doesn't burst anybody's bubble, but analytics is not all what it's cracked up to be, is kind of what I'm saying. Deal with negative comments. Let's see. Challenge, accepting you'll never make everyone happy on social. You said it, Kevin. You were your own answer. You are not a $100 bill. Not everybody's going to like you. And guess what? People not liking you in social is a good thing. It trains the algorithm that you're interesting. Facebook came out a couple years ago and said the number one thing you can do for their algorithm is to start conversations, and it doesn't really matter if it's a negative or a positive conversation. Now, that's a broad statement. I'm sure that most people's bosses do not want to hear that. But you got Frank and Maven today. So you're not going to make everybody happy. If you are making everybody happy, you're not making noise. I literally tell my clients, if you don't get some angry calls about this ad, it's not working. That's our mark of success in a way. That's how we know it's probably working. I don't know. Most people are worried about ruffling the feathers. I'm out back plucking the chicken. So, because I know that's what makes it work. If you look at our website, one of our foundational beliefs about communication is if it doesn't cause or doesn't bring smiles, fists, or tears, it falls on deaf ears. If you're not making somebody laugh, cry, or get a little bit angry, you're probably not even getting seen or remembered for more than a fraction of a second. The average American sees over 5,000 ads a day. And so the way our brains are wired are it's not to chronicle and remember all that information. We couldn't do that. We don't have the energy to do that. So the brain says, what's going to make me laugh, cry, or get angry? And that's what they latch onto. A neuroscientist a few years back came out with the definitive chemical that is present in the brain when long-term memory is formed is adrenaline. If there's not adrenaline present in the brain, and I'm not a neuroscientist, but my poor boy understanding of the research, which we all know to be true, is if there's not adrenaline present, you're not going to remember that thing. So I use the example of if I tell you guys today that refrigerators are on sale for 10% off at Metro Appliances, exactly 0 people that don't need a refrigerator will remember or care about that for 10 more seconds. But if you got a call that one of your loved ones was in a car accident, you will remember where you were, probably what you had for breakfast, what you were wearing, and what time the phone rang for the rest of your life, because adrenaline was present, and that bonding chemical happens. So all this stuff about slang and entertainment, all that stuff I'm talking about, it's a physiological thing. When you turn on the pumps of adrenaline, you cause your message to stick and bond long term, or to enter immediate relevancy. So that's a big principle, but ask yourself, would I find this funny, sad, or maddening? Or would somebody find this funny, sad, or maddening? And if you can answer yes, you probably got something. Do I have a few more minutes, Jeremy, to go through the last couple questions?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, anybody who's here, I mean, if anybody needs to head out, I mean, by all means, we're not holding anybody here captive. But if you have a couple of minutes to cover these last couple of questions, by all means, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So you're not gonna make everybody happy. That's actually a good thing. I know that's super scary. I'm looking at these. You guys are from like some of the biggest and most prestigious organizations. So I'm like the marketing guy over the corner, like poking the fire. But and I know that is not organizationally acceptable. So I feel your pain. I'm giving you the extreme. Be human is what I'm asking you to do. Humanness, even with a direct and violent opponent. So I forget the guy who told this to me. No, it was Mark Fox, youngest the youngest engineer on the space shuttle project that NASA ever had. He was a space shuttle engineer when he was like 28 years old. Brilliant human being. He flies hot air balloons for fun. And if you know anything about flying hot air balloons, one of the things you have to do is very often land onto property that A, is not yours, and B, you don't have permission to land on. And he told me, he said, did you know it's physically impossible for somebody to argue with you after 2 or 3 minutes of silence and smiling? Because all the studies have been done. I don't know where his research was, but he lands and people are super mad they landed on his property. And he said, you know what? The only thing I do is I stand there and I smile and I listen. And it's impossible for people's anger to surpass that moment. He goes, even complete lunatics. And that principle applies to public communication too. It's sort of the take the higher road. It's the turn the other cheek. It's the Gandhi principle. It's everything we've always been taught about emotional intelligence. It translates. So if you can just be human, address and dismiss and say, I hear you, I want to engage you on that. Here's how you do that. I would have a solid and sincere way for people to make their voice heard. And we coach this on when our clients get bad reviews, for example. You never try to fight that person in public. That's a winning battle, or sorry, a losing battle. You'll never win it. But if you affirm them, if you guys go look on our website, there's a Maven Monday video about responding to bad reviews. There's like 5 steps to do it, but basically it's affirm them, say, wow, I understand why that would be really frustrating, or I would be frustrated too, or I totally understand why you think your personal liberties are being taken away. We feel the same way. That's not our intention. So second, state your belief. That's not what we really believe in. That's not why we're trying to do this. 3, provide some sort of a next step. We would love to talk to you more about that and hear your ideas. And when you just, whether you start your live stream with that, or whether you handle that in the comments in response to somebody, everybody else is watching and they go, wow, this is actually not a battle, because you didn't allow it to be a battle. You turned the other cheek, and more importantly, you turned the other cheek and reached a hand out. Doesn't mean there's not going to be crazy people, but it does mean you can absolutely douse that fire. And so for all of you that are living that hell right now of extremely divergent times, book you guys should go read, by the way, Pendulum. It explains the 80-year cycle we're in and why we're in this 5 years of violent divergence in society. I'll just leave you with that. If you want to read the book, changed my whole perception of marketing and, frankly, the public. So Pendulum, it's by Roy H. Williams and Michael Drew. It's by a marketing guy and a historian, and they lay out the cyclical nature. It's an 80-year cycle of people going from liking each other to hating each other. And guess what's part we're in right now? And it kind of explains exactly why that happens and when it's going to change and what you can do about it in the meantime. So check that out. Ensuring my content is relevant isn't just noise when there's a lot of information going on in social right now. I have 2 answers for you, Katie. The noise part, hopefully we've addressed that. Don't be noise. Just don't participate in that game. If you are noise, you will be noise. If you are information, you will be noise. So don't do that. You know that by now. Second thing is, I would use some paid social, some paid, you could do this with either boosting or pick a specific audience. And I would A/B test some messages. So you can go in and say, if you're wanting to test which message works better, you can go in and say, okay, I'm going to spend $10 today, and I want to put 5 of it on this message and 5 of it on this message. The thing you get with paid paid social is that you can A/B test, and you can use the exact same audience, but it will give you way, way, way more metrics to understand what worked, and you'll know because they're side by side. It puts them in equal distribution. You can't really do that with organic, because if you posted 2 posts at the same time, Facebook wouldn't really give those equal weight. And it would not give your page equal weight organically. So boosting pushes it in front of more people, and do some experimentation. Write a long form, write a short form, write something with a little bit more street language, and write something with a little bit more formal language, and just see what over time, what's working better for you. If you don't know how to do that, shoot me an email. It's bw@frankandmaven.com, and I'll give you 5 or 10 minutes with one of our people that can show you. But A/B test some paid media for research, if nothing else. On top of that, it'll reach a lot more people. So Jeremy, one of our challenges, often moderation on issues drowned by haters. Okay, we talked about that, right? Since you've got the mic, any rebuttal? You want to speak for the group on that, or further that question?
No, I mean, I think you've kind of hit the points. I mean, you know, like you said, the ability to, you know, like you said, not only just turn the other cheek, but also, you know, offer a handout at the same time. You know, like this, you know, I understand why you're coming from where you're coming from. Here's where we're at. But at the same time, also not trying to shut down the conversation, I think probably goes a long way. So.
Yeah. Humanness is the thing, man. And when we're in an analytical, stressful, litigious, constantly changing world, it's our left brains that go on hyperdrive mode and take over.
Yeah.
Emotions, connections, patterns, love, frankly, exist in the right brain. So wake up the right brain. What if you're mean, this is outrageous. I get some of you are going to go, oh my God, my boss will never go for that, or we'll get grilled at the stake for that. But what if you started your live streams with some music that makes everybody feel good? What if a Beatles song was playing before your live stream started? We know this, guys. Every basketball game, football game, entertainment venue we go to uses music, entertainment, lights, production, feel good stuff. And that's why they're good events. And people pay millions of dollars to go to those things. So do it in your public relations arena. You don't have to be stiff just because you're, a public office. And if you want any proof, look at some of these videos from like sheriff departments that are going viral. When they break their form of being big bad, law enforcement people, and they do dances in pink tutus and stuff. I mean, it goes absolutely nuts. So drink a little bit of the fun Kool-Aid, crack open a bottle of wine, and brainstorm. And if somebody in the room laughs at it, it's probably the thing you need to, come back to.